Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Yevamot page 116, which asks the question, in the event that a negative thing happens and we need to make some type of decree, we need to make some type of rule in response to something that happened, do we only address that one thing, or do we make a much larger decree? In other words, the Talmud discusses here, as well as brought in Chagiga, a case where they have the special ingredients for the paraduma, for the red cow, which is integral to become pure. And they were traveling over the Jordan River on a boat. And it turned out in that particular situation, there was a remains of a body. There was a mace that was somehow attached to the boat, and therefore it made all of the things in it impure, including these special ingredients for the paraduma. And you can imagine that was obviously very devastating because it was such an important thing, and therefore because of that they made a decree. And they said no longer is a person allowed to travel these items in the Jordan on a boat. And the question is, did that also mean that they're not able to allow this to travel through any river because of the same potential issue that may happen? And the question is, what difference does it really make if it's the Jordan River or any other river? Why would we think to only make a decree there? And the answer is that we don't want to add too many stringencies on people's lives. When there is a decree, sometimes we want to be very, very precise and exact, because otherwise we're going to end up making it very, very difficult for a person to be able to live and function if we make huge decrees all across the board. Instead, we want to limit it in order to make it not so difficult for people. And this is where the question certainly arises when it comes to so many other things, including, for example, gun control, where we find terrible tragedies of mass shootings. And the question is, do we just say we should outlaw all guns? Which, of course, is a whole question based on the Second Amendment and the like. But the point is that when we look at a problem, do we address specifically that problem, or do we just say, okay, that's it? We got to get rid of this whole thing entirely. So on the surface, it makes sense to maybe just want to do that. And therefore, you would think that that would alleviate the whole problem, even though, of course, it's much more complicated. But the reason why the sages do not do that is because that is not the proper approach. Instead, we have to address the specific issue at hand. And if we could address the specific issue, then we'll make a decree on that, so that will never happen again, in order to be able to be proactive in that regard. But to make it so that all of a sudden all of these new rules will come about, that the sages don't do.